What's going on, people? It is the Opinionated Gunnar, aka DOG. Hope you guys are staying safe out there. I hope you guys are also having a great week. Very productive, very positive week. This is just a reaction from like that whole European Super League debacle, man. I mean, well, long story short, it seems like that's not going to happen. But what the plan was to have 15 founding clubs. So 6 from the Premier League, so which are known as the Big Six. 3 from Serie A, 3 from La Liga. And they were looking to get in PSG, Bayern, and I think it was Dortmund to be the 15 founding clubs, along with 5 other teams who will essentially qualify for that league due to their achievements in the prior season. So it would have made up 20 teams in that league. What they were going to do is essentially break it down into 2 groups. So 2 groups of 10 teams in there. The top 3 from each group qualify automatically for quarterfinals. And then the 4th and 5th teams within those groups will play each other to get the final quarterfinal place. So that's how they were going to do it. And then obviously when you get to the final, it's 1 game in a neutral venue. Now, the Big 6 that were involved in this were Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, Liverpool, Tottenham and Chelsea. In Serie A, it was AC Milan, Inter Milan and Juventus. La Liga, it was Barcelona, Real Madrid and Atletico Madrid. And then obviously, as I said, they were trying to get in PSG, Bayern and Dortmund. I thought it from a business point of view, it makes absolute sense for Arsenal. Every team that was going to be involved in it, we're going to get 300 to 400 million for just participating. So for Arsenal, if they wanted to do this self-sustaining nonsense that they like to do, these cronky people, obviously it would have made absolute sense. But from a football fan point of view like myself, nah, it doesn't make sense, man, because we'd be watching Arsenal get smacked every week by these big teams. I'm sick of seeing us lose to teams like Burnley and, all of these kind of teams, Newcastle's, the Crystal Palaces of the, like, I'm tired of seeing us getting battered by them in the Prem. So imagine not only watching that, but watching them get smacked in this European Super League. But essentially what was going to happen anyway, the UEFA and the FA and FIFA were not happy with this at all. So what they were going to do is, if you participate in this European Super League, you can no longer play for your domestic league. You can also no longer play for your national team as well. That's what they were trying to push out there. And obviously they weren't going to be in the they weren't going to be in the Europa League or the Champions League. So, it was a mess in itself. And I think what made it even worse with regards to this league is that there was no relegation system. I think what they kind of failed to understand is, from a fan's point of view, as much as it's great to watch to see who's going to be the champion of their respected league, the thrill of teams getting relegated is also there too. I love watching the Premier League, wondering, who's going to win the Premier League, who's going to finish in those European places. And I also enjoy, the relegation battle, especially bearing in mind if it goes down to the last day as well. It's very exciting. It's part and parcel of being a football fan, and they weren't going to put that in the European Super League, which I think is just ridiculous. So, like, what's the point? I'm watching Arsenal get smacked every week. There's no relegation system. Whoever wins, wins. And then the other teams are just there to participate and make the money. And that's the problem with that whole European Super. It was just to make money. A lot of those teams that I had mentioned, teams like Barcelona, Real Madrid, Juventus, AC Milan, they're in debt. They're in debt. It was just all as a money grabbing scheme. That's all it was. And the rest of the committees like the UEFA, FA, FIFA were not happy with this. But let's get one thing straight here, especially with UEFA. You know, they're also a disgrace, because at the end of the day, when they were doing this financial fair play, it was only the big boys that were still, you know, getting out of that loop. You know, Arsenal were complying with these kind of rules, and, you know, teams that didn't really have the money, but you still managed to see the likes of Chelsea, Man City, Real Madrid, Barcelona still spending big somehow. You know, financial fair play was to make it a balanced, to make it balanced essentially in football. You know, where other teams that don't have that much money can still be competitive. That's essentially what financial fair play was. So how UEFA are pretending as if, oh, they're not a money grabbing scheme, you know, like they're also a disgrace. You know, they're just a disgrace as well. You know, FIFA also trying to, let's try and make some more money, and, you know, let's do this Nations League or whatever. I still don't even understand that, right? It's everything just involves money and how it can benefit them. You know, this Super League was so crazy that, you know, Boris Johnson got himself involved. You know why? Because the money is shifting from the government. It was shifting. It will now be going into the big boys' hands. You know, it was a shambles, man. It was a shambles. It was essentially a money war. That's all it was. You know, um, and obviously, like, yeah, they, as I said, you know, especially for Arsenal, they were trying to get them out of the Premier League, which essentially would make the Premier League weaker. You know, if all of these teams are out of it, you know, a lot of tourists would love to see the likes of Arsenal, Manchester United, Chelsea, because they're more global than, you know, the rest of the ones that are within that league. They're more global than a Sheffield United or Fulham or, you know, Crystal Palace or whatever. So it wouldn't have been good for football at all in that sense, because obviously they would have been getting richer, and, you know, why would broadcasters even want to spend a lot of money on the Prem when there's no big teams really in there? It's not really competitive anymore, you know. So I do get it in that aspect. But what I will say though is really funny how there was so much of an uproar with regards to this European Super League, how fans were so quick to protest. These former football players are so quick to protest against it. You know, players speaking out against these things, but, you know, it's not related. But when it came to racism, you know, not many people showed themselves, you know, not now all of a sudden, because it's a European Super League, which involves money that the fans will never see, we're all up in arms, we're all together. But when it came to racism, no one was really on it, man. So a lot of fans as well, they're a disgrace. A lot of former football players as well are an absolute disgrace. And all of these committees, all this UEFA, FA, all of them, they're all a disgrace, because all they did was, how am I going to try and find, especially the committees here, how am I going to find a way to make money out of supporting racism or supporting not having racism in football? It was just a money scheme. All this say no to racism, kick it out, you know, having the players take a knee. What's all of that rubbish about? What's all of that? You know, players that are taking a knee, they're getting paid to do that. It's a routine for them. There's no meaning behind it. At first, at the beginning, yeah, like maybe there was some meaning to it, but there's no more meaning to it, because imagine being a footballer. You're taking a knee and you're taking home 100 bags a week. You won't care about why you're doing it anymore, are you? You know? So that's why I kind of respect the likes of, you know, Zaha just saying, nah, forget this. And Les Ferdinand, I think, who's a chairman at QPR, saying we're no longer doing all of this anymore because there's no meaning to it, you know? But it's just very, very funny when it involves human rights. Can you imagine? Human rights is secondary to football. It's just secondary to football. That's how the world is working, you know, and it's a very, very sad story, man, if that is the case. you know. There's going to be a lot of protests on Friday with regards to Arsenal. There's been protests at Liverpool, at Chelsea, so many places where they're doing these protests. But when it came to stuff like racism and, abuse and stuff like that, where were these people? Where were these people? It's ridiculous, man. It's ridiculous how football can be in its own bubble and they just do whatever the hell they want and we all just follow suit. I think with regards to the Super League, obviously all of the English teams have pulled out. They all came out with all these worthless statements. Oh, I apologize. Yeah, we should have basically consider the fans. We do this, that, and the third. It's absolute rub. You know what? Yeah, I would have even respected Kroenke even more. I hate him, but I would have respected him more if he had just said, "Look, we just needed the money, man." And I'm sorry I didn't ask anyone else, but we needed the money. We needed to find a way to make this money. I would have said, you know what? He's not lying because it's true. We all know it. Coming out with all this rubbish, we apologize. I made a mistake. It's nonsense, man. It was just all pressure because I think it was who withdrew first? I think it was Chelsea out of all of the teams. Chelsea withdrew first. We're like, nah, we can't do that. Then Man City followed suit. And I was like, well, it kind of makes sense because they don't really need the money. What are they in there for, What's the point, really? And obviously, bearing in mind as well, both of them are still in the Champions League as well. They're still in the Champions League semi-final. Didn't make sense for them, But yeah, I just thought it was. I did think that the European Super League was a debacle. But let's be clear here, though. I would watch it if they decided, yeah, let's do this. I'm going to watch it. It is what it is. I'm a fan of football, not just an Arsenal fan. I would have loved to have been seeing Real Madrid versus Man City or whatever it is. I would have loved to have been seeing it. And what's sad as well is that I wouldn't have even cared whether they were broadcasting that game at like 12 or 3 a.m. in the morning. And that's bad on my part, but that's how powerful football is. And like a lot of people were saying, no, we're not going to watch it. You lot are liars. You lot would have watched it, whether you support those teams or not. Why? Because those are the games that people want to be seen. It's the truth. It's the truth. So a lot of you that are saying, yeah, it was a disgrace and stuff like that, you lot are frauds, man. You lot are frauds. So, even these former football players, they will do it. Because you know why? Especially as well, because a lot of these former football players are pundits. It's their job. They will get paid to watch it. They're not going to say, oh, I don't want to get paid anymore. I don't want to be a pundit anymore if I have to review the European Super League. Them men are just chatting rubbish. All these Gary Nevilles, they spoke very well. Rio Ferdinand, they spoke very well. But if they have to review those games, they will do it happily. It is what the world revolves around money. It is what it is. It is what it is. Let us not front here. They spoke very well about having these teams get deducted points and stuff like that. Cool, I hear that. But you'll still go and watch it. You'll still go and commentate on it. You'll still say that was a brilliant game. So stop lying. And a lot of these ones that were saying, oh, what about the teams in the lower divisions and stuff? If you're so concerned, especially these football players, former football players, if you're so concerned, go and invest in them. Save them yourselves. Go and get a team and save them yourselves. At the end of the day, in business, that is going to happen. A lot of businesses go into administration. Sometimes there's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do about that. Where were some of these players and and all of these other people making comments when Berry were going into administration. No one was there because they realized, look, it is what it is. They've gone into their debt and whatever. There's nothing that we can do. You're not going to save every club. Whether there was a Super League or not, it is what it is. You know? But I didn't think that the Super League was a good idea. You know, I didn't think it was a good idea. I think, you know, I do enjoy, you know, as silly as it sounds, I do enjoy like watching those off games where it's like Arsenal versus Aston Villa and stuff like that, because you never know what to expect in those kind of games, man. It will get boring after a while when we're playing that, especially Arsenal as well, when we're not even competitive. You get what I'm saying? It would have been very boring watching Arsenal getting smacked by Barcelona this week. Next week is Real Madrid. The following week then it's Man City. Especially with those English teams that were involved as well. We would have already been seeing that in the Premier League. I don't want to be seeing that 2 or 3 more times. You know, and it just wouldn't have been good for the players either, in a sense of if you're not allowed to really do anything within the Premier League, like, are you really going to be motivated to do anything really? Like, you know, because the European Super League is basically the upper echelon of where you want to be. So if you're in the Premier League, you're gonna just not take it seriously. The manager won't really take it seriously. What if there was a situation where with those big 6 they had the under 23s playing? Because it doesn't really mean anything to them. I just feel like there were a lot of things that weren't really thought out with the whole scenario, personally. And I think it also wasn't thought out from, you know, UEFA and FA and all of them as well, because if you do kick them out of domestic leagues, you know, those domestic leagues start to lose money. They start to lose money. So I think how they should have gone around it was, if you want to start your Super League, that's cool. If you're all if all of these 20 teams are gonna get 400 million, just agree to give 20%. Just agree to give 20%. 20% of 400 million with 20 teams involved. That is a lot of money. I think we're going into billions. You can inject that money into those domestic leagues to make those other domestic leagues competitive. You know, maybe even start considering merging other leagues together. Maybe bring a Rangers and a Celtic either to the Prem or to the Championship. I think more in the Championship, because I feel like the quality in Scotland is not the best, and I think the Championship are Rangers and Celtics level, if I'm being honest. But that would definitely up the level of the Championship for sure, having those teams in there to start off with. You know, if I'm not mistaken, I think the Dutch and the Belgian league have merged. You know, give them some money. Give the La Liga a bit more money to make, you know, the likes of Sevilla and Valencia and teams like that a lot more competitive as well. If you're going to take them out of those domestic leagues in particular, give them more money to make it more competitive. You know, there still would be 5 spots every year to see whose achievements have outweighed others. So, you know, they still might be able to come into that Super League, and plus they would have been well prepared as well, especially bearing in mind they've been given a lot of money, these teams. So I just feel like it wasn't thought out properly. I just felt like they just said, yeah, we're going to do this. And it's sad, man. It's sad because we should have seen these kind of things coming with the way teams or these clubs are paying transfers for certain players. You know, wages, ridiculous agent fees. You know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. We should have seen it coming. All the advertisements and stuff like that. It just... I think from a business point of view, it makes absolute sense. But in terms of like football, it doesn't make any sense. And like, another point as well is that let's say Arsenal are in the European Super League, and we weren't in the Prem and stuff like that. Let's say if we wanted a Basuma, like who do you think has more of the pulling power? You don't. If you think Arsenal have more of the pulling power, you're bluffing, because Brighton can just go and say, well, that's cool. You can have him if you want, but we want 60, 70 million for him. You're getting 400 million a year. What's 60, 70 million to you? It's nothing. Brighton will have the bargaining power. And then on top of that, Basuma and his agent will have the bargaining power too, in terms of their wages. So it just didn't make any sense for me. It was just a plan that was never going to succeed. I think I was talking to one of my friends on the phone. I said it wouldn't even last for more than 3 years. It didn't even start. Didn't even start. Wenger had warned us about this for years, since 2009 or something. Just not good. It was just not a good idea. It's not a good idea, and I'm glad that Arsenal are not a part of this. Apparently, I think Barcelona and Real Madrid are still in this Super League. They haven't withdrawn. They haven't withdrawn. So like, they're in serious debt. They need to make this money back, and that's the problem with football now. Like, as I said, with like that whole Basuma thing, we would have been paying ridiculous amounts for this guy who, I don't think he's a world beater, but that's how football has gone. We're paying money, huge money, for average players. And we made so many of those ridiculous decisions, in particular Arsenal. And they had the nerve, I think, on the website to blame the pandemic. When you made so many ridiculous decisions in giving Ozil 350 grand a week, even making Aubameyang sign a huge deal. You just made Holding get a new contract. Buying ridiculous players that you didn't need. Arsenal made those decisions, giving wages to basic players, huge wages. Arsenal made that decision way before there was a pandemic. So let's not make it out as if the pandemic is to blame for all of this shambolic behavior. So it just wasn't good, man. It just was really a weird terms of events like that happened this week. Not good enough, man. Not good enough. I feel like it's a damn shame that you tried to do that. UEFA as well, acting as if they're for the fans when they're not, because they had something similar planned in terms of. In fact, they've always had that in plan, especially in terms of how they seed teams. It's by certain coefficient points. So because Arsenal had been in the Champions League 20 years straight, we would have been in the first seed or the second seed. How is that fair? How is that fair? It should be just based off where you finished in that particular season, and we moved that way. So, UEFA are not, they're not our friends either. But what I will say, like, to kind of end this video too, though, man, is, as I said, there's so much of an uproar with that whole European Super League. Everyone is involved, saying that they want their owners out and stuff like that. Where was this energy when it came to racism? I'm sorry. Where was this? Where was this energy? It was nowhere to be found. You know why? Because when it comes to rights, in particular black people rights, no one gives a fuck. Sorry, it is true. It is true. Suarez can get 10-match ban for being racist, and Trippier will get the same length of ban for betting. How can you what's going on here? You know, and especially I bring up the Suarez one in particular because he was found guilty of doing that, and Liverpool defended that whole situation. Why were they not deducted points? Why weren't there any repercussions for Liverpool? And as another thing as well, why weren't they within that punishment taught about racism? Why discriminating against somebody in terms of their race or sexuality or whatever it is wrong? Why weren't they taught these things within that punishment? It's okay to give them a 10-match ban and a fine. You think these men really care? They're still getting paid. Within that ban, they're still getting paid. You know? It's very messed up. You know, Boris Johnson involved in footballing matters. Why? What does that have to do with him? It's the money. It's the money. When it comes to racism, no one cares. When it comes to injustice, to whether it's your sexuality or to women or to whatever, no one cares. Human rights is secondary in football. It's secondary. You hear a lot of these ultra fans as well chanting anti-Semitic stuff. Nothing gets done. They're not relegated. They're not nothing. All they get, the ultras only get a ban from the stadium. That tells you everything you need to know about this world in general. You know, the pandemic happened. Oh, we can't wait. That we need football on. We need it. We need it on. It's just to have money. They were losing money because a pandemic happened. Yet, there are other people out there who lost their flipping jobs during that pandemic. A lot of people lost their jobs during that pandemic. It's a disgrace. It's a disgrace how the football industry are really in their own bubble and they do whatever the hell they want. It's an abomination. You know, players refusing to take pay cuts and stuff like that. You know, it's debatable. Some may say, yeah, you have a right to decline it if you want. It shouldn't be forced onto you, and I do hear that. But, you know, in that current climate, at least if you're going to give them a pay cut, let the money go to, you know, maybe another scheme to help people that didn't have a job. The football industry makes billions, probably even more. You know, they could have helped out in a sense of let that money go to the people that are unemployed, or to the people like in the NHS to get real money instead of just clapping for them. You're just clapping, yeah. Well done. We won't up your pay though, but well done. The government is tapped. They're just tapped. You know? The footballing world has gone crazy because of European Super League that the fans won't even see that money. Former players won't see that money. You know? The only benefit I can say now is there's obviously going to be a protest against the Kroenkes on Friday. Maybe we can do something in that sense because I don't want the Kroenkes at this club. Nowhere near this club. Ever. They've done nothing with this club. You know? They've done absolutely nothing. Stan Kroenke is a very smart man. He's already introduced us to Josh Kroenke. You know why? Because he's the next in line to take over. So be comfortable with him. Be comfortable with them man there. Because he's going to take over. He's going nowhere. But let's just hope that our voices can be heard on that Friday. You know, I hope a lot of people do show up. You know, when it comes to Cronkies and stuff, a lot of people hide, man. But when it comes to managers, players, everyone has a voice. You get me? So hopefully we can do something. I don't know what we're going to do, but you know, the very least we can voice our frustrations at Cronky. You know, so yeah, man. But that was just my take on the Super League. You get what I'm saying? Could have been something good had they, you know, reached an agreement of, okay, we'll give you guys 400 million, but we take away 20%. If they had agreed with like UEFA and stuff like that, you know, to put it towards like making the other domestic leagues competitive, that in itself will probably make the Champions League and the Europa League competitive as well, because you've actually got strong teams in there without these big teams involved. You know, but what I will say is that it was wrong for, you know, FIFA to basically say, yeah, no, you can't play for your country. If you join the Super League, that has nothing to do with it anyway, because with football anyway, a lot of managers don't even want some of their players playing for their national side. So what difference does it make by you opening your mouth to say something rubbish like that? Doesn't make any sense. You know, just the whole thing was just yeah, there was no incentive behind it. Not from a footballing standpoint or anything like that, you know. The players didn't know about it. Apparently Arteta didn't know about it. I think he did, but Arteta didn't know about it. There was just no incentive from a footballing standpoint. But in terms of business, it makes absolute sense. Let's get that clear. Let's get that clear. From a business point of view, if like Josh Kroenke and Stan Kroenke, that they are intelligent men, because we're so rubbish, but yet he almost wiggled his way to getting 400 million a year for doing fuck all. Arsenal weren't going to get relegated because we were essentially a founding club. You know, and actually, you know what? With that being said, actually, though, it's kind of my final point. But with that being said, imagine if within that European Super League, the Big 10 out of that 20 decide, nah, let's create our own league. What happens then? Because Arsenal will not be in that top 10. I can tell you that. What if that happened? We would be back to square one. What are we gonna be doing then? Is it gonna be a European Super League 2 with just a weaker 10? You know, there was so many like holes in this idea. It was just shambolic, man, really. But it would have been interesting to see nonetheless, you know, Arsenal playing proper teams and stuff, regardless of whether we win or lose. You know, it is what it is. We're football fans as well as, you know, club fans. So, you know, we all would have watched it, so let's not lie about that. But yeah, that was just basically my take on that, man. I'm going to keep it moving because that was a very, very long video. I hope you guys enjoyed my point of view anyway. Also, let me know what you guys thought about it as well, man. Yeah, let me know what you guys thought about it. Were you in for it fully? Was it like you're half in, half out sort of thing? Let me know, man. But yeah, make sure you guys just like, share, and subscribe. Turn on the notifications and all that other good stuff. And I'll be back soon. Take care. Peace.